They brutally train a vast crowd of young men in the smallest amount of time possible to become useful and exploitable servants of the state. Nietzsche dedicates a few paragraphs in Twilight of the Idols to the problem with modern education. Most of his problems with modern education stem from his elitism, which in turn stems from his disdain for the herd, or the great masses. He shares this disdain with Schopenhauer, who also wrote down some thoughts on modern education, but whose problems with it have a very different origin. We've done a video on Schopenhauer versus modern education here on the channel, which you can check out if you're interested, link in the description. Nietzsche's antagonism towards modern education is built on three foundations. First, the lack of good teachers. Second, the democratization of education. And third, the hastiness by which modern education must happen. Educators are needed who are themselves educated, superior and noble intellects, who can prove that they are thus qualified, that they are ripe and mellow products of culture at every moment of their lives, in word and in gesture, not the learned louts who, like superior wet nurses, are now thrust upon the youth of the land by public schools and universities. Nietzsche is very hard on teachers and educators, and has extremely high standards for them. A lack of good educators, he writes, leads to cultural decline. The objection here is quite obvious. If Nietzsche has these extremely high standards for educators and teachers, how can there ever be enough for everyone? After all, by definition, a superior and noble intellect is rare. But this leads to exactly his next problem, namely the democratization of education. Higher education and a vast crowd. These terms contradict each other from the start. All superior education can only concern the exception. A man must be privileged in order to have a right to such a great privilege. This is one of the more blatant examples of Nietzsche's elitism. He makes the argument that only the aristocracy should have a right to higher education. What is it that brings about the decline of German culture? The fact that higher education is no longer a special privilege, the democracy of a process of cultivation that has become general, common. Nietzsche has always had a disdain for what is common, for the people, and his entire philosophy in a way reflects this. But his elitism is always an undercurrent, it never surfaces explicitly, except in passages like this. Twilight of the Idols brims with passages like these, and it's a major reason why this work, among the rest of his later works, has been considered radical and lacking nuance. In short, democratization leads to mediocrity. Education should focus on the flourishing of the genius, that rare individual among thousands, perhaps millions. In trying to raise everybody up, it actually brings down the genius. All great and beautiful things cannot be a common possession. Pulchrum est paucorum hominum. Because of this insistence of trying to educate everybody, nobody actually gets the education he deserves. It turns the process of education, a slow process of cultural cultivation, into factory work. Children are busted through the school system and have to quickly get out of it in order to make room for the new batch of students. They are trained to be good workers to serve the interests of the state, and that's that. But for Nietzsche, education isn't about that at all. True education must be slow and it must be thorough. This leads to his third problem with modern education. Everywhere, too, a hastiness which is unbecoming rules supreme. Just as if something would be forfeited if the young man were not finished at the age of 23, or did not know how to reply to the most essential question, which calling to choose. Because modern education is based on a process, it forces students down a predetermined path. In the current times, you get a basic education when you're a child, you get some more challenging material in high school, and then you pick a university major or you go to college, and then you're expected to find a job you will work at for the rest of your life. In other words, you're supposed to be finished. You're supposed to know what you'll do with the rest of your life by the time you finish your education at around age 23. Needless to say, Nietzsche disagrees vehemently with this sentiment. The superior man, Nietzsche writes, has time. He takes time. He cannot possibly think of becoming finished. In the matter of higher culture, a man of 30 years is a beginner, a child. In the modern world, a man should take care of his own education, because the system will not do so. The system expects you to be ready at age 23, like a product about to be shipped from the factory. While he does not explicitly say so, at least in this respect, Nietzsche agrees with Schopenhauer, who argued that wisdom takes time and education is the matter of a lifetime. And for Schopenhauer, continuous education and self-learning is one of the few joys of life that can lead to happiness, in so much as happiness is possible in this wretched world, of course. Both men seem to agree on one thing: don't count on the system to educate you. Do it yourself. Our overcrowded public schools, our accumulation of foolishly manufactured public schoolmasters, are a scandal. Maybe there are very serious motives for defending this state of affairs, but there can be no reasons for doing so. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you like this video, as there's much more coming in the future. A special thank you also to our Patreons, without whose support this channel wouldn't be alive today. Check out our Patreon page if you want to support the creation of this content as well. Plus, in the higher tiers, there's a monthly exclusive video to watch as well. Follow us on Twitter too, we're trying to be more active there. If you want more Nietzsche, you can check out our dedicated video on Twilight of the Idols. For more on Schopenhauer and education, check out our video called Why Education Makes You Dumber. Again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.